Hi, my name is mxemoryaletha. I'm a non-binary muse, mover, and spoonie, and today I'm going to be talking about why empaths / highly sensitive people must be the main characters of their lives, and how additionally, when we hide who we truly are in order to protect us, it ultimately backfires. When I say protect, I'm specifically talking about things like narcissists or narcissistic abuse, manipulation, other types of harm, malicious copying, and people claiming that our work, our art, our creativity, our light is theirs instead of ours. So, this is a video that is going to be touching on some heavy topics. Please take care of yourself. Come back to watch later, if at all, if that's what's best for you. And remember, this is based on my experiences, opinions, and ultimately you are the creator of your life. You know what is best for your specific situation, and I trust that. So, starting with some personal experience, I have essentially hidden who I truly am for most of my life. This became a lot more obvious to me about 8 years ago. I realized that I was trained to hide who I am, to hide what I think, what I believe, what I value. I was living a life that I did not value because I was afraid to share what I actually valued, what was actually important to me. I was afraid to pursue opportunities, to pursue relationships that I really wanted. I was afraid, that is a theme a lot in this, to tell people what I wanted, to tell people what I was interested in, what things I was researching, what opportunities I was trying to receive, because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed and I was ashamed of wanting those things, either because for some reason I was told I shouldn't want those things, and because of how much I hid myself up until that point in my life, there was such a huge discrepancy. To a degree there was in just how I felt between who I was and what I actually wanted to be, or who I was and what the opportunity was, who I was and who was on the other side of that relationship. So ultimately, this began to break down when that hiding mechanism was clearly no longer protecting me. So in 2016, I hit one of the absolute lowest points of my entire life. I was being targeted by a narcissist. Many awful things leading up to that were happening. I lost a family member. I was experiencing a lot of mental and emotional health issues. I was experiencing a bunch of physical symptoms throughout my entire body. I was going to the doctor once a week or so to run tests to figure out what was going on. Kept being told that my various symptoms was just related to stress and there wasn't much that they can do about it. I was failing all of my classes. I could barely concentrate and read a sentence from start to finish and comprehend what I was reading because I was so severely stressed. Earlier that year, I had been forced out of the closet, gay, lesbian, homosexual, non-binary. I didn't realize at the time fully that I wasn't cis or that that was a possibility, but that's another story. I was forced out of the closet and forced back in. So I reached this point where I was having all these horrible experiences constantly. I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't able to eat properly. I wasn't digesting my food properly. And this narcissist targeted me. And when I distanced myself from them, they continued to do so even more. Eventually, I had been able to some extent, but not fully, because I went to school with this person, distance myself from them. And even when they had nothing else to gain from me, I had lost that friend group. Based on what they seemed to value, they seemed to have the things that they value, and I seemed to lack those things. They were doing really well in school. I went from doing really well to failing all of my classes. My health was terrible. While a lot of my health symptoms throughout my life have not been obvious to people, there were things that were making it obvious because I wasn't showing up to classes, I wasn't sleeping. At some points, I had welts and lesions on my face, on my arm, my back. It was very obvious at certain points that something was pretty wrong. It was even affecting my physical appearance to a point where I couldn't hide it with makeup or anything else. My friends chose this person over me. They had all these things, yet long after I distanced myself from them, just them seeing me in a moment would trigger them, and they would feel the need to do something or say something that they thought would intimidate me. And having this experience, and honestly having versions of this experience continue throughout my life, where I thought, wow, I'm at such a low point in what I believe is my potential. At that point in my life, I thought my life was over. I've thought that a few times, actually. And this person is still triggered by me. And at first, instead of it automatically being a switch where I was like, oh, that means it doesn't matter how much I hide from them, how much I'm away from them, what I lack. I can do what I want. I can be as visible as I want. At first, this sort of led me to a spiral in the opposite direction, that I have to be extra hidden. I have to be extra cautious. Now, please be safe. I'm not saying that you should not take safety precautions. You absolutely ought to, especially in your own situation. But in this case, it was something where I had developed a pattern that was beyond being private, protecting myself. It was harming myself, because I was hiding so much of how I really wanted to live my life in order to not trigger other people. I was off of social media for a very long time, and there's a lot of pros to that. If you're doing that, that's great. But for me, what that ultimately was a reflection of was I was afraid to be visible. I was afraid to be seen. I was afraid to trigger other people and to have to guess what the consequences of that would be. When I finally was on social media again after years, I was private for a very long time. Months ago, this year actually, I had finally unprivated my Instagram. And I don't know how long I'll keep it that way, but the reasons for why I made that decision were based on something that flipped inside of me. And I said, I am no longer hiding from people. I am telling people what I want. I'm on this trajectory of saying what I want and what I have to offer to an experience and what I'm interested in, following up on those experiences and seeing what can happen. I'm betting on myself. I am dancing and enjoying dancing and showing my body and enjoying that and letting people know that that is something that I am interested in. That's something I'm about. I hid my body for a very long time. I camouflaged. So I am non-binary. I experience a lot of gender fluidity. I sometimes like to really layer up, wear some baggier clothing. I love this part of my expression, and I didn't tap into it for a while because I was afraid of signaling that I fall outside of the gender norms and stereotypes, and that felt and at times was dangerous for me. So I celebrate that. But there were also times when I wanted to wear something else. I wanted to show more of my body. I wanted to post something that I wouldn't even think twice about if somebody else did. But I was so afraid, based on my conditioning, of triggering other people, and especially what I had been taught about my body, that I avoided this altogether, and I was so disconnected. And when I would show my body and people would have a negative reaction to it, it made me feel not only bad, but it also triggered my gender dysphoria. So recently, I have been doing more of what I want, sharing with people what I'm interested in, talking about it more. I was afraid to speak. I was afraid of my own voice and how it sounded, and the fact that I trip over my own words pretty regularly. I'm doing so in this video a bit right now, and I've tried to record this multiple times. And I am on the beginning stages of this journey, but I have already seen and experienced so much more joy and magic and actual opportunities to connect to the things that I want to be doing, to connect to people in meaningful ways, and to allow people to make informed decisions about interacting with me, because I'm giving them information. If you don't tell people what you want, they're not able to give you what you want. And that's something that I'm still learning. And I've also noticed that while I've absolutely experienced narcissistic types of behavior and people trying to identity swap with me, at least in their own, deluded sense of reality, trying to say that the wonderful qualities that I embody are theirs, and the negative, harmful behaviors that they exhibit are mine, when there's clear evidence that they're not. These things are happening, but they're not happening more than when I was suppressing who I was, when I wasn't telling people what I wanted, when I'd feel an urge to say something that, again, I wouldn't have either thought twice about somebody else saying, or would have even been happy and grateful to hear somebody else say, when I would hold back. I experienced the same amount of that negative behavior, if not more. And I'm still on a certain point of this journey, and I can't predict how other people are going to behave, but I know that it is important that we are not acting in ways that align with our fear. We are not validating to somebody who's trying to cause us harm that their way of seeing the world is acceptable. When we hide who we are, it not only affects us, but it impacts other people who are also scrambling and trying to see the truth and wondering what is even the point of sharing, because I look around and I don't feel valued for what I bring to the table. But the more and more that we share and make decisions based on what we want, the more that we say yes to things that we actually want, actually saying yes to what you want, actually being open to what you want, actually saying no and not doing something that doesn't align with what you want, not doing something that you don't actually want to do, saying you're not sure about something that you're honestly not sure about and still having questions about. These things draw us closer to where we need to be. And if you are making decisions based on what you truly want, you are protected in that because it is your life and you are creating that. Anything else, anybody else's behavior is theirs to deal with, their karma, their consequences. And I know that that is a lot easier said than done. And I am also not preaching. I am speaking life over my own self right now in this video as well. But it does not matter if somebody tries to copy you in a malicious way, to belittle you, to claim that your work is theirs, that you aren't who you say you are. Because you are creating from your truth, from love, from authenticity, from curiosity, and that is irreplaceable. We need more people who are genuine, authentic, want to love people and love this world, who are empathic, highly sensitive, to own their lives, to create what they want to create, to claim their worthiness, to claim their space and the deservingness. I need you to do that if you are somebody who is genuine and loving and curious, or at least trying to be. I hope this video was helpful and brought some encouragement, and I would really, really love to know what you think about this and how you deal with trying to be yourself and not trying to hide, and the fear that is so quickly to tell us that our actions don't add up to anything, when in reality our actions create our reality. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you next week.